Time for Business. Delano's here, starting out in the UK, where the British Finance Minister announced improvements to the job support scheme. I'm looking forward to hearing this, sir.
That's right. Good evening, Mark. The measures come following criticism Boris Johnson's government has faced that it isn't doing enough to protect small businesses reeling from the coronavirus pandemic. The new funding is aimed at businesses which are struggling to bring in customers due to new restrictions to limit the spread of COVID-19. The opposition Labour Party, meanwhile, says Rishi Sunak's plan is a patchwork of poor ideas. James Wilson reports.
After 7 months, Britain's furlough scheme will end next week. The programme saw the government subsidise the wages of millions of people whose workplaces closed due to the pandemic. Chancellor Rishi Sunak returned to Parliament to outline further changes to its replacement. The subsidy for employees' wages is due to be increased. It's still less than the furlough scheme, but higher than had been previously planned.
To protect jobs, we are making the job support scheme more generous for employers. If businesses are legally required to close, as we've already outlined, the government will cover the full cost of employers paying 2/3 of people's salary where they can't work for a week or more.
The announcement comes at a key juncture in Britain's battle to contain the pandemic. With the number of cases surging, large parts of the north of England have seen restrictions tightened once more. In certain hotspots, pubs and restaurants have been forced to close for the second time this year, leading the opposition Labour Party to criticise the Chancellor's announcement as inadequate.
For months, we've urged the Chancellor to get ahead of the looming unemployment crisis and act to save jobs. Instead, we've had a patchwork of poor ideas rushed out at the last minute.
At the height of the pandemic, nearly 10 million Britons were furloughed. Since then, over 2/3 have returned to the workforce, and in September, the unemployment rate measured 4.1%, only 0.3 percentage points higher than the previous year.
James Wilson there with that report. Now, the parent company of British Airways says it's cutting its fourth quarter passenger forecast to just 30% of last year's level. International Airlines Group posted an operating loss of 1.3 billion euros. Now, during the same period last year, it posted an operating profit of 1.4 billion. According to the company, it reduced its forecast due to additional restrictions being imposed to limit the spread of COVID-19. China is warning Sweden of tit-for-tat action. This after Sweden's telecoms regulator banned Chinese tech firms from its 5G network. On Tuesday, Sweden ordered carriers to remove Huawei and ZTE equipment from their networks by 2025, citing national security concerns. China's foreign ministry said it was strongly dissatisfied with the decision, accusing the Swedish government of blatantly suppressing Chinese companies and politicizing economic cooperation.
The Swedish side should hold an objective and fair view to correct the mistaken decision and avoid bringing a negative impact on business and trade between China and Sweden and negative impact on Swedish companies' operations in China.
Time for a check of the markets next. And here in Europe, stocks ended the session on a mixed note. The CAC 40 in Paris and the DAX in Frankfurt both closing near the flat line, while the FTSE over in London closed up 0.2%. Over in the United States, all the main indices ended the session in the green. The Dow Jones erasing losses after Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi said progress was being made on a stimulus package. There you can see the Dow Jones and the S&P 500 both ending the session up around 0.5%. Revenue at Coca-Cola fell 9% in the third quarter. The company says it's looking to shake up its product mix. This as part of its efforts to revive sales, which have slumped during the coronavirus pandemic. Coca-Cola says it's seen stronger sales to consumers, offsetting the decline in sales it's witnessed to bars, restaurants, and stadiums. And finally, Banksy's take on a famous Impressionist painting has sold at auction for $9.8 million. That's the second highest price ever paid for a work by the British street artist. Show Me the Monet went to an unidentified bidder at Sotheby's in London. Back in 2005, Banksy added abandoned shopping carts and an orange traffic cone to Claude Monet's image of water lilies in his garden at Giverny. That's it from me. I will hand it back to you, Mark.
That is fantastic. You should visit Bristol in the UK, where he's from. Though you see Banksy's all over the place. You'd love it.
I will.
Take your checkbook, though. It might cost you something if you try to buy one.
I will have to borrow a lot of 9.8 million.
Thank you, Delano. Very much indeed. Delano with the business.